The inaugural Ironman Leeds. Here's some local knowledge insight into next summer's Ironman in Leeds city centre. I'm going to discuss some of the options of the route on the bike, some quick access out of the city if you're staying in hotels, a little bit of local knowledge around the roads, the wind, the weather, and all things Yorkshire. Roundhay Park, this is the home to the Leeds Ironman triathlon on the 25th of July 2025. Behind me is where you're going to be swimming, almost 100% guaranteed, of that Waterloo Lake. It used to be a boating lake. Its average depth is 18 meters, and the water's going to be cold even at the end of July because of the depth and the amount of rainfall we get in Yorkshire. I don't have any course inside information, but I live locally, and for the last 12 to 14 years I have ridden these roads that you're going to be riding for your bike course. It's going to take you into the heart of the Dales, if the Brownlees have anything to do with this. So you can see it's a vast lake, with the perimeter of the lake just to be running around is about 2.5 kilometers. So they are definitely going to take you in and around the hills for the marathon to keep the spectating hot, and also to make it challenging more on the run route later on. The swim start is going to be limited to where they can, based on where they can have the bikes on side in T1. We're going to have to figure that out close to the time, but I'm assuming it's going to be a deep water start on the most accessible part of the lake, which could be further down there. It's a splendid piece of water, full of wildlife, and just be prepared for some real murky, dirty water with occasional duck poo. If you're not used to swimming in fresh water, this is something you need to really think about in the warmer months, May, June and July in the northern hemisphere. If you're coming to Leeds for the Ironman, you get less buoyancy. The water quality is pretty terrible. You can't normally see further than your hand in front of you, and once it's rustled up with loads of swimmers, all the muck from the bottom comes up to the surface of the water. It makes it really hard to see. Depending on the growth of the weeds, they'll probably dredge it before, but that's also a factor. All the wildlife will dissipate in the morning with all the speedboats, and with the sun rising at about 5:15 at that time of the day, you're going to have it low level shining right into your eyes for a couple of the laps, and I'm going to assume it's going to be a 2 to 3 lap swim. Due to the nature of this location, I'm almost certain that it's going to be no access lake to warm up, which is a huge issue for most of us getting into a big open water swim. What I really suggest is you grab yourself some bands with either with the paddles hooked on, like these Zen8s, and you're going to do some dry land warm up with the tide to the side, because the water's going to be pretty cold unless it's a hot summer, and there's just not enough space to hold the athletes, certainly 2,500 athletes, to warm up. So it's a big concern to go into the mass start, and I would definitely do 2 to 3 minutes of dry land band warm up. A couple of videos to show, but it's really simple. You just go through the motions of trying to get the arm action for the swim start warmed up before the big gun goes off. One potential swim start location is tucked away more on the southwest side. There's a lakeside cafe and a car park, probably big enough for bikes. And you can see the entry steps down in the corner there, wide enough to have a group of swimmers start in different waves. And of course you've got access to land and water safety, which is important. And then a car park up at the top part there, where T1 will more than likely be, unless it's a exit and entry at different positions. So it's somewhere to think about if you're planning your recce of the course. It would then potentially leave from this little short entry to swimming to the far end and round with the camera to the bigger part of the lake. The inevitable, the bike course that everyone's trying to work out where it's going to go. Living in Otley myself, which is slightly north Leeds, as you can see on this little bike map that I've put together, we're trying to find 180 kilometers, 112 miles. That's going to take in some of the iconic sites of the Dales, which is this area over here, Yorkshire's finest national park. Now there's multiple ways out of Roundhay Park, but we know that's the swim venue, so you're going to start and finish more than likely there, unless it's a split transition, which it'll take you into the city centre and back into Roundhay Park. More on that in a second. So here's what I'm thinking will be a similar choice of route that they would take. As you can see, it's lumpy, being the most northern part quite hilly up until the steepest part, up until about halfway. And then as you roll back through the valleys, you will have small little climbs. It's relentless. It's probably going to be 1,500 to 1,800 gain as a minimum. And that depends on how they take you on which route north. So leaving Roundhay Park, it's quite straightforward, getting the most easiest access. So I've gone the nice roads out past Haywood House, which is a famous national icon in Yorkshire, National Trust, and more than likely along towards this Otley route, and then there's two ways out. The Brownlees tend to head this way out, but on their train rides, but I'm guessing they're going to take us up this fairly famous climb called Norrid Edge, which if you do a Strava segment, the Blitzy guys can nail it on a road bike in 6 to 7 minutes, but obviously on a TT bike and pacing 380 k's, probably average is going to be about a 12 to 14 minute climb, taking it easy, and it's quite punchy. From there, there's multiple directions to go north, but with closed roads, they might take you on the quick A59, which is a death trap on a normal day, so don't try and ride on that. And then the famous Burnsill, Kettlewell, this is all rolling and lumpy over here, so it's the section here with big elevation towards the, if we're going to do a loop, it's going to come around back towards what's called Massam. It's quite a famous area as well in the Yorkshire Dales. Now there's all these little small roads that can come back, but you get the gist of it. Another famous landmark is Fountains Abbey, past the infamous posh Grantley Hall, and back down via this part of north of Harrogate. Now Harrogate is quite a famous spa town, and I'm suspecting they're going to come skirt around that as they head south back down on the route back down towards Roundhay Park. Okay, onto the run course. Be prepared for some hills. No guessing here, Roundhay Park's full of hills. They do the weekly park run exactly on this hill. If you're local, to come try it on a Saturday morning. They do this 3 times up this particular hill. You're going to do probably loops in Roundhay Park. We know we're going to finish in the city centre where the buzz is going to be electric. But you've got swim start here, big enough transition just behind me in the car park by Lakeside Cafe. And spectators, this is probably your best place to be, I'm guessing, so they're going to make you run through Roundhay Park. So lots of strength on the run, and no doubt you'll finish in the city centre. To just give you a little bit of accommodation options, I'm not a travel agent, but having travelled to many races around the world, I know how important being comfortable and potentially self-catering is. The accommodation will be very much Leeds-based, hotels and so forth. I wouldn't stay in this area here. Headingley's a very busy area and it's a uni town. They will be on break at the 27th of July. So if you just go slightly north, this area here, Otley, I'm from this area. It's absolutely fun, lovely, with a real nice Shevden Park to run in here, which is very hilly. You'll see the Brownlees around there in Bramhope, and that's also another really nice place to stay. And you're only 20 minutes into Leeds, so you can see the prices per night. That's for 3 guests. It's not super expensive, and it looks like a far away, but 25 minutes in a car, and you're out of the buzz, and you can train. And there's not so far away some swimming pools in this area here. So anywhere around here would be quite nice. You start going this direction, I would highly avoid, and you get into more country roads directly north of Leeds. If you're staying in the city centre, which most hotels will pop up around this area, you'll find that cycling around there in the days leading up to it is a nightmare. And yeah, Roundhay Park is close enough to ride over or get a taxi to check T1 and the swim start. However, to get a proper ride, it's really worth, my view, is to grab a 25 to 30 minute train north from Leeds and head towards through Guiseley and jump off at Ilkley. Now from here you can go straight into the Dales, and you can even head up towards where they probably will go up the steep climbs around here. You could do a loop about 50-60 k's and get really nice food back in Ilkley, a lovely town, market town, and then whiz back into Leeds on the train. The trains are super bike friendly, just don't go at peak times. It'll cost you £3 or £4. There's even a section to put your bike in, but I would put it in the main carriage because of the cost of a TT bike. And it avoids this whole area trying to cycle through, navigate through busy Headingley, which is a uni town, and so forth. So hopefully that helps just navigate the way I would get. The other option is similar time, is to head straight into Harrogate, which is a spa town, and then you go north from there. Much of muchness, if you want to just get the job done, you will head to Ilkley. Wow, isn't that all just super beautiful? I mean, looking at these images and video footage of some of the stuff I got and what is being put together, I would expect everything. I would be ready for a heat wave in July or sideways rain and gale force winds. I'll be prepared for wetsuit and non-wetsuit swim. Bear in mind, sunrise is around 5:10 in the morning, 5:15, and with the race usually starts at 6:30 a.m. Expect the sun to be low in your face on the swim if it turns up. First timers, I would really consider a road bike due to the 1,500 to 2,000 meters of climbing. Almost definite. Be comfortable, and you must be ready for these downhills. Run, prepare for hills, on dead legs, lots of brick runs, but usually training on a hilly terrain. Great news is sunsets late up north around 21:15, so the town centre will be buzzing with vibe, rich in culture, and it certainly will bring a party atmosphere, and expect Alistair Brownlee to be involved in some capacity. It's going to be iconic and breathtaking views.